I'm Charles Soule. You're watching SuperWonder Legacy.
Hey, this is Jason J. Lewis, Superman from Justice League Action, and you're watching SuperWonder Legacy.
You're strong.
I know.
You a sight for sore eyes.
It's nice to have someone who likes you for being you.
It's okay. I've got you now.
Just like in the movies.
Welcome to SuperWonder Legacy, the only show that if we knew how to do magic, we would make it so the Tom King run on Wonder Woman never happened again. I am Jared. I'm here with Britt. What's up, Britt?
Hello, hello.
I figured that was an appropriate intro for this show. So, and what's up, Tyrese? And what's up, Cameron? Yeah, so we are comparing. This is the couple. All right, so here's a story. So I was recently reading the omnibus for Justice League Dark Rebirth. This is one of the few good Rebirth books, Bert, that feature Wonder Woman. And I was like, oh yeah, we've never done Zatanna and Constantine. How have we never done Zatanna and Constantine? So I told Britt we got to do this. By side note, did you see that the Rucka Rebirth run is getting an omnibus collection?
I have nothing good to say. So
well, there was nothing good to say about that series. So unless, of course, you need good toilet paper, and in which case there's a lot of good things you can say about that series for sure. So we are, again, doing Zatanna and Constantine. And in many ways, Zatanna and Constantine is like the magical super wonder of DC, except, again, like all of our, of our couple comparisons, this exposes more hypocrisy. By Cameron says, the ship I always knew about, I thought it was like Hal and Carol, except Constantine was just a screw up and Zatanna couldn't deal with them. Sometimes they deal with that. But yeah, so let's start off, Britt. Start talking about Zatanna and Constantine.
yeah, so basically, as you said, it's a lot of hypocrisy and contradictions with it as far as DC, how they deal with romantic pairings. Um, with these two actual comparisons, I did not know that Constantine and Zatanna was so dysfunctional.
Mm-hmm.
And
oh yeah,
it's you really with this comparison going into what makes them similar or different, it is the emotional limits or the ideologies or things like that, and how these two connect in a way that is different, but at the same time it's like, okay, so these two can be similar in the sense of that magical or dark magical way of um I guess spellcasters and dealing with that, being on the same team with the Justice League Dark and everything like that. And even the relation, how it started, was very much the focus of Constantine, and Zatanna was pretty much a supporting character for him. It didn't really involve her perspective of the relationship, and as we continue on with these comparisons, we see that the relationship starts with the male character, and how it is true that the female character is reduced, but that also emphasizes that it's such a projection on Superwonder, because the main goal of Superwonder was always to have equal perspective. And honestly, the relationship starts with Diana first. So it does, go the opposite direction, but not understanding the hate, not understanding why these other couples are acceptable, but then every flaw that these other couples have is all put on Super Wonder. And that is why it seems like it's blasphemy or taboo or things like that.
Yeah, exactly. Changed my freaking username. Fantastic username, by the way. Says, I think Z deserves better than John. I think the DC writers paired them up mainly because they're both magic units, but girls stand up, please. Well, it's either this or for some reason they try and pair her with Batman because, of course.
Well, with the Batman thing, they do have history. As best friends growing up. Bruce having a connection with her father. So yeah, childhood best friends that can work. With Constantine, and we'll get to it. It was very much a retcon.
Yeah, which as a lot of couples are. So let's talk about the similarities between the relationships because no one really it's because no one shifts Superman with Wonder Woman, right? Or no one's stupid enough to have an entire podcast go over 100 episodes talking about them, right?
Right, right, yeah. So the similarities, you have the power and mythology-based connections. Both relationships are rooted in magic, myth, and these larger-than-life forces. With Clark and Diana, they are these godlike figures with demigod demigod uh, ties to the Olympian gods. And with that, of course, we have Diana. Whether you have the Zeus origin um, as her father, and she has a dysfunctional family, or of course you go with the classic Clay origin, blessed by the gods, and she still has that family connection with the gods. And as far as Cal, his connection is that he is perceived as this sun god. So yeah, and also a rival in power to Zeus and Hercules.
Of course.
With Constantine and Zatanna, they are street level for the most part, but
Depends on how you define
it
street level, though.
yeah, it really depends. Constantine, I would say it it's it's a levels to it in a sense. But Zatanna is pretty much a stage magician, so that's what I'm saying. Like at first she
Mm-hmm.
was this just a stage magician. Even if she was doing actual magic, it was still very low, and until of course you get um the evolution of the character where they actually take her serious or take Constantine serious in the magical realm and add more elements to, the character. And
Exactly.
both pairings explore, fate and free will and the burden of power.
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
And it's like both do deal with magic to a degree.
right. The deep emotional undercuts or undercurrents. Neither relationship is light or purely romantic. And what that means is, you know, even though Clark and Diana are these sunshine characters in a way, they're not dark and broody like Batman or anything like that. And they're not mysterious in that sense of or dysfunctional in the pairing of say Batcat. They still have this realism to them and these expectations, these hard truths. Um, they don't have this darkness that, say, Rucka was trying to put into the Wonder Woman story, which is she is mentally unstable or she doesn't know romance or, or trying to be rebellious against her mother. And the pure romance is not this fairy tale. They will go through things, and it's a emotional battle, and you also have this intellectual battle of their ideologies clashing. Just making those uh, sort of having those conversations where you need the the person's different perspective of things to make compromising and things like that. So the emotional tension comes from duty versus desire with Clark and Diana. They put the world first. before their relationship,
Yeah, Tomasi.
before before anything else. And it's like, can we have this quote unquote normalcy? And normalcy does not mean the way Superman is perceived with the normal, I have to have the Daily Planet or
And here's
live
the
like I
thing,
don't.
normal is very relative.
Yeah, everyone has their own normalcy. That's pretty much, you have your unique normal. And then with Constantine and Zatanna, it is love versus self-destruction. So Zatanna gives her love, she is honest and open, while Constantine is self-destructing.
Exactly. So let's talk about key differences. Obviously, Clark isn't a drunk magician from the UK.
Right. So Clark and Diana, this epic, mythological, and aspirational pairing, they have this superhero and divine spaces. Clark is the basic superhero, but Diana brings that element of divinity, of this whole new world of magic and mythology. And their themes are hope, truth, and global responsibility. While Constantine and Zatanna is dark, messy, very intimate, um, you have this horror space. Um, of course, dealing with the more darker elements of magic, and is basically like 24/7 in Tartarus or something trapped there. And the themes are guilt, consequences, and moral um, ambiguity. I would say that if you were to have absolute Zatanna and introduce absolute Constantine, as Snyder pretty much said he wanted to, I could see this version of the pairing. But I don't know much about the main pairing.
And watch, all the Wonder Woman fans on Twitter will be so pissed off because they'll complain about, oh, Kelly Thompson queer baited us. No, she didn't. You know how these people overthink literally every little damn thing. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, well, that's the way of fandom.
We'll definitely be talking about that when we get to the absolute Wonder Woman. But because I read the issue, nothing about this sets up Diana with Zatanna. So all these people are lying. Anyway, so you have the emotional stability, but you also have, obviously, Clark and Diana are kind of on a little bit more of an equal playing ground than Zatanna and Constantine.
Right, because even though, Zatanna is a main character and so is Constantine, but again, as far as the relationship goes, it's more in the perspective of Constantine, and she becomes the support for him, while Clark and Diana challenge that, and they are to be on equal footing. It is 100% both ways of giving their perspective. So, and also being, you know, um, equal status, equal symbolism. Both are icons, and that's what it is. It's a relationship of equal balance. While again, Constantine, it's very imbalanced. Because as you said, Constantine is a drunk smoker, and his emotions are all over the place. While Zatanna, she is emotionally vulnerable. I think she probably has daddy issues too.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty much why she's probably attracted to Constantine, because she feels like maybe she can fix him, in that sort of
I can
sense.
fix him. I can fix him. Yeah, and honestly, I feel like the whole I can fix him thing really has been overplayed in media.
Of course it is, because in actuality, I mean, there are some women who want to do the reversal of Captain Save a Man thoughts and everything.
Mhm.
But in reality, that does not work at all. And, you know, that that creates a lot of emotional upheaval that no one wants to deal with.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing, it's like, it's like, well, the only like, so you can make the argument that Clark stays with Lois because he's like, I can fix her. So it's that in reverse,
Well,
even though
in a
she is
sense,
beyond fixing.
it's not so much as fixing her, it's
Mhm.
more so of wanting this acceptance from it's a self-insertion
Well,
of
yeah,
the loser type behavior, because Clark Kent is the one that's ignored. He is portrayed as the um the galoot, the loser. So Lois plays a role of the loser ends up getting the girl, in that sort of power fantasy type way.
yeah. So in that case, so that's why Tom King loves Steve Trevor. So then we get to
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Then you get to the narrative function. So in a lot of ways, so it's kind of funny. I just realized something. So you know how Constantine is constantly summoning demons and such.
Uh-huh.
Does that mean he's the one that created Lois?
Funny, probably.
I had to. I had to. That's like an elaborate, like multi-decade practical joke on Clark.
Well, Constantine is his worst enemy then.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, so let's talk about the narrative function.
Okay, so Clark and Diana, of course, we have read that from Power Couple. It basically explores um, these would-be gods falling in love, and what are the expectations? What are the consequences that comes with that? And how they deal with their public persona and their private persona. How do they navigate having secret identities or having open identities? And that really is a lot of compelling narrative functions and to explore, because we don't truly get those answers with Lois and Steve. It's always Clark and Diana ends up choosing one over the other, that pretty much makes it easier for them to be with Lois and Steve instead of actually dealing with, that complexity of their identities, of the cultural impact, of the world, and the reality that these two, it's not an easy life, but and it's not supposed to be. So yeah.
Exactly. Oh, and by the way, I changed my username. Says I think Clark stays with Lois because he humanizes her. Interesting. Also, she challenges him. That's an understatement. You watch Love Story. It's similar to the dynamic JFK Jr. and Caroline had. I'm not much of a Chloe shipper though. That's not the couple that you really want to be
No, not at
like
all.
emulating. In which case,
Right.
maybe it is like that. And a Hellblazer fan remembering that his name rhymes with fine, so it's Constantine. Yeah, but it goes back and forth with Ra's al Ghul, Ra's al Ghul. So at that point, I'm just like, nah. And hello, X-Men superfan. But yeah, and with Constantine, the reason why it's like I call them like magical super wonder in many ways is because Constantine and Zatanna is many of the back and forth, will they, won't they, but it's essentially a darker super wonder in many ways. Kind of to a lesser degree, like Batcat is, only less healthy than Batcat, and that says something.
Well, honestly, it depends on which Batcat are you talking about. Are you talking about pre-crisis Batcat, because that was pretty healthy, or are you talking about um Tom King's, or post-crisis?
Regular Batcat.
So, hmm.
I'm saying it's a less healthy version of Batcat, though.
It's kind of on the same level in a way.
Okay, I can kind of go with that.
Yeah, but again, it all depends on which Batcat you're talking about. If you're
Yeah, it
talking
depends
about
on the writer.
if you're talking about like Earth 2, then yeah, less healthy. If you're talking about pretty much post-crisis in a way and Tom King, yeah, it's
Don't even
actually
put Tom
healthier.
King in the same category as post-crisis. Let's be clear, because Hush was great, but when you deal with like the Tom King one, that's like it's not only less healthy than Zatanna and Constantine, it's more like Bruce is dependent upon Selena for his very life, and that's not necessarily true in reality. But then again, that's the way Tom King writes.
Right, that codependency.
And my mic cut out for a second. I am back. And by the way, Cameron says Constantine Zatanna also have the same problem. Constantine is such an egotistical a-hole double cross, and sometimes it feels like Z is taken for granted. Oh, he definitely takes her for granted. He definitely does in a lot of ways, but it's like that's part of his character arc is that he has to he's essentially so Constantine Britt in many ways is what you used to think Hal Jordan was.
I mean, they all have their moments of being a-holes, so yeah.
Well, that is very true. Then we get to supporting cast impact. So, and then so obviously Superman and Wonder Woman is frequently constrained by lame, and that's a definite understatement. And in many ways, you could have also put Steve Trevor in there, but I'll accept that. And the Trinity, which again, I when I first started this podcast with Britt, I was naive in thinking that the Trinity was this like real big concept that's been at DC since its inception. No, it's not. Oh, and Zed says, wow, am I late? That's a first. Jared, tell me good news. Tell me Lois is dead. Tell me she's gone down to Lucifer where she belongs. Unfortunately, I can't say that, but I can tell you she lost her powers again. It's really getting annoying, but she lost her powers. And I'm like,
They really have nothing else to do. She is supposed to be a reporter or the
Timu
EIC.
SuperWonder. She's Timu SuperWonder. That's what he is. I got into a debate with someone, by the way, recently, and I was like, okay, here's how you know that they that they do not know what to do with Lois. You ready? They keep turning her into other characters. Like, again, they turned her into like Perry White, complete with the yelling out of her office thing, and now they turned her into Timu Diana.
Right.
And by the way, Zed said, so she's back to being a useless NPC again. I'll take it. Yeah, trust. That's basically the role that Lois really inhabits. But with Zatanna and Constantine, it's more like they're not really constrained by like anything, and that's again part of the hypocrisy. And we'll talk about that in the next couple of slides about editors and stuff. But it seems like the editors are always pushing Zatanna and Constantine together, so it's like this couple has little to no resistance from what I've seen in terms of editorial at the very least. But it's like in terms of like the magic part, that's the other thing they have. Here's the other difference, Britt, is that Wonder Woman isn't in the same editorial group like as Superman that I believe Zatanna is with Constantine. So that's the other difference, is that Zatanna and Constantine are less separated than Clark and Diana are.
They actually were under the same editorial until I would say 2 years ago. Rucka, well, okay. So when Rucka took over for Rebirth, he made a big fuss. And I mean, for who the editor was, of course, that was a lot of controversy with him. So, you know, he was gone, but Rucka wanted to be under the Batman editorial. And of course, he wanted to be under the Batman editorial so he could have probably Diana team up with Batman a little bit more. When he left, Wonder Woman went back under the Superman editorial. She was actually under the Superman editorial from New 52, I think. Also, no, at the beginning of New 52, she was under the Justice League editorial. Then 2013, the Superman editorial, Rucka's Run,
And she gets
Batman,
passed around. Jeez.
and then back to Superman when Rucka left. And I would say a year or two ago, that is when they branched off for the Themyscira or the Wonder Woman, sole editorial. But honestly, even
Here's
that
the thing.
breakdown,
They kept the same people in charge of her that's been screwing her up. So I'm like, nothing changes.
right, nothing has changed. It's just the title. But yeah, Wonder Woman and Superman has had the same editorial team for a long time, been under the same editors. They even had it where it said Superman and Wonder Woman editorial. So, there's really no excuse of why they aren't as close. And again, that just goes under foul that under the contradictions or the hypocrisy.
Yeah, exactly. So speaking of hypocrisy, so I'm sure that the fan reception of Superman, the editor and writers and fan reception of Superman and Wonder Woman was sure the most civil and definitely not dickish attitude ever, right?
Right. Yeah, we can just skip through all of this because yes, it's a very unnecessarily controversial. You have highly divisive. Yeah, it's just a mess. Uh, it's either there's no in between for editors, writers, or fans. It's either you're for or against.
Yeah, exactly. So then it's like for the fan reception, obviously all of us are at least in favor of it, of course. But in terms of like the critics, it's like here's the problem. You notice how again, I'm gonna restate this. Most of the Superman fandom that is like super religious about Lois, religious about it, they aren't Superman fans. They're just Lois Lane fans. Why else would they keep calling for a Lois Lane? They know damn well that a Lois Lane book would not sell well, like at all.
Well, I guess, it's true that her, book would not sell. I mean, we know that, and it has been shown within with the Rucker book. Even he, I guess, was bored with Lois's character because he ended up having the book turn into a question book, you know.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think that that is the only way she would have like any type of relevancy is if she is the, you know, love interest.
Yeah, exactly. And if you notice, it's like again when like Superboy Prime and when the issue of Superman brought up that Lois had this solo series that went to 100 issues. Hey, Britt, remind me, what was the title of that series?
Superman's girlfriend.
Exactly. It's almost like Lois's only relevance is when she is the girlfriend of Lois Lane, and that's really the funniest part about it. And wasn't that also the series where Lois did blackface? I like to bring that up every single time. I even retweeted when someone shared that panel. I'm like, oh, you mean this series? By the way, Cameron says, I would ask fans one thing. If they want a book about her, name one of her enemies that isn't related to Clark. Well, they can't because, again, she's a sub-character of Clark. So it's like they would probably say corrupt politicians. Well, Superman deals with that. Lex Luthor, he's a Superman villain. It's like any villain that you could really name. Amanda Waller, what connection does he possibly have with Amanda Waller? Nothing these people can say would create a compelling narrative for Lois.
That's true.
Yeah, because it's like, again, it's like what villains, what you have, what like possible, like, let's see, what possible drama could you have? Nothing. And by Lord Zed said Lois would never sell unless she breaks up with Superman, gets in love with the true love Satan, or Steve Trevor. So close enough. So, but that's the funny part. And then of course the common criticism is that people, for some reason, and it's kind of funny with the following argument that I'm going to bring up, Britt, because it really feels like projection when they say that I don't like Superman and Wonder Woman being together because I feel like it turns Wonder Woman into Superman's girlfriend. And I go, and yet you want him with Lois.
I mean, 90% or 99% of female characters that end up with the male character ends up being the girlfriend. You have Nightwing and Barbara, or you have Ollie and Dinah, Constantine and Zatanna, even Aquaman and Mira. You know, who else?
Hal
And
and Carol, maybe?
You know, they are the female characters do become the girlfriends or the wives. They are reduced for the male character, and that is because the male character is the lead title. But again, it is projection because Diana was not supposed to be that. But the ironic thing is, she is I would say the widow or whatever to Steve in her own book.
And yeah, if you want to talk about a character being like a better term, subjugated, it's Diana with Steve, because too many writers self-insert onto Steve, especially the current one.
Exactly.
And again, that's where you get the real like what's the word? Like hypocrisy, essentially. And it's like then they just lie and say and forget that, like, if you really read the new 52 keyword, you actually have to read the books, people on Twitter. It's that if you read it, yes, they had some crossover books, obviously, one of which is like pictured here, and it's amazing. But it's like most of the time, it's like he would appear in her book, she would appear in his book, because again, they were dating. You can't have them not show up in each other's books, period. But it's like oftentimes it would be like, oh, he shows up and it's like, hey, you want me to help you with this? Okay, cool. See, that's what a couple does.
Well, yeah, they in post-crisis, they would have crossovers all the time, and no one had a problem with that unless you were a Lois fan, because at that time they would either tease SuperWonder or be messy using Diana as a mouthpiece, things like that. But with them actually together, yeah, Clark wasn't in Diana's solo book during New 52. Azzarello, with his own I guess ideas, he didn't want him in the book in the first place. Even with Meredith, Finch, she didn't really have Clark just, constantly in the book. It wasn't about him. And then when Diana would appear in the Superman books, it was for them to have a date night or something, or just a mention. But they never just overshadowed each other. Clark would never, overshadow Diana. I mean, that is why Peter Tomasi was mad or said that Diana is difficult, because she would outshine Clark. And that was something that he didn't take, too keen to. But we see in his rebirth run how Lois was just a glorified housewife, that she baked pies. She waited for Clark and John,
She encouraged him to be a coward.
Right. So, I mean, that is how they see these relationships.
That's the funny part about that run. When people say that, like, oh, Rebirth, Superman Reborn and Rebirth Superman brought back peak Superman. I'm like, oh, so you mean you took the one that was the champion of the oppressed, that saved like people from being like evicted per se, that punched Apollo in the face hysterically, that fought Doomsday, and that saved the planet against Darkseid many, many times, and replaced him with the one that like hung out with his family instead of stop a tornado. I don't want to. These are the same people that moan about the Man of Steel tornado sequence, and I'm like, that is literally what Rebirth Superman did, except at least this one had a reason.
Right.
But I will never let the people live that one down. That is such a stupid. What was the edit? I'm like, I get you want to stay with your family, but you're Superman. You could stop that. How many people died from that tornado because you sat on your ass?
They don't want to think that far.
Because they don't want to admit that maybe the Tomasi and Gleason run of Superman, that is apparently extremely overrated, isn't as good as people think it is.
Well, it has been a turnabout with Twitter. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Particularly when they're like, look at how great America is. I'm like, that's fine for like a 4th of July issue because DC is an American company. I get why they want to do that. But I do feel like it went a little too far. Anyway, so then let's get to Zatanna and Constantine and Zatanna, because the editorial perspective, like I said, seems to be much more supportive of this one.
It is because, again, the relationship is, I mean, they are closely together with Justice League Dark. Zatanna, even though she is, now becoming a popular or being more popular and a main character, on her own and everything like that, it's still that she is attached somehow to Constantine as his support. And their relationship is still classified in a way as traditional and default.
Yeah, exactly. And but it is to echo what you said, it is very cool that like Zatanna has like really organically gotten like massive. Like there were times where she was the #1 book at DC, and I'm like, Zatanna. Now she's always been popular. Don't get me wrong, but it's like I know she was that popular.
Right.
I wonder if the Bat Office was upset because she was outselling Batman, or is it because she's considered kind of a Bat character? I guess so. So
that could be true. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, can we stop linking everyone to Batman? It's like Britt. I'm sure you saw that like people were complaining that Tom Taylor in Detective Comics had Dinah beat Bruce in a hand-to-hand fight, a sparring match, and everyone all the Bat fans and creatives freaked out because they're like, no, Batman would win because he's Batman.
Well, I blame DC for that because they've, had stories where Batman always wins. So
and the funny part, that wasn't Grant's intention when they did that in the JLA series. That was more of like a commentary thing on it, but people took it to literally.
Wait, you mean Tower of Babel?
Well, no. That wasn't Grant, but the Bat God thing started in the very first arc of their Justice League run when the Hyper Clan / White Martians invaded because Batman instantly figured out there were White Martians. So that was kind of that idea. And then you also had that follow through in their Batman run, which is actually pretty solid, except for what they do to Talia because, and I quote, they forgot what the story was. And I'm like, bro, literally look it up. But anyway, that's where Bat God really started, or like was, and of course, like Wade and other writers popularized it with Tower of Babel. But the problem is they treat it like Batman can do no wrong and that nothing could beat Batman. And to your point, yes, DC has perpetuated this by constantly doing stories or plot points where Batman solves everything.
Right. I mean, you have Clark as this investigative reporter. He is also the son of a scientist. He is supposed to have high intelligence. Diana is, she is modern age. She is not old as dirt. but she is highly intelligent herself. She has the power of Athena, and you know, that wisdom that she has. She is able to understand or solve things herself.
which is good, and then that's really important there. So then you get to the fan reception. Again, it's very much like, for the most part, it's like, it's one of those like relationships, of, at least from what I see with the fans, it's more like they love each other but they can't be together because of like all of the like baggage there, but they do really care about each other. Like, remember, this was the one couple that actually almost got a happy ending in the animated movies, because Britt, did you ever see the Constantine animated movie they did after Just League Dark Apocalypse War?
Nope.
All right, so in that, it's canon to Dark Apocalypse War. So what happened was, so the universe reboots again. Constantine is put in like a house that where like he's married to Zatanna. They have a daughter. Everything's happy, but then he keeps getting attacked by like, but then the people around him turn into zombies and keep attacking him, and then he keeps trying to like escape, and he keeps trying to escape the house. Finally he escapes it and encounters the Spectre, and the Spectre tells him, bro, that was intended to be your heaven. You just turned that into a hell because of your guilt for everything you've done in your life, and you don't think you deserve a happy ending. So to punish him for escaping, because it was supposed to be his prison, but he escaped in it, that's where he was deposited in the Tomorrowverse in Crisis. That's how that links. So when I saw that movie, I was like, oh, really? But yeah, so that's, and it's actually a really solid movie. I think actually you would actually enjoy it. But I like supporting the next thing I know I'm accused of is supporting eugenics. Those people that accuse you of that, Cameron, don't even know the meaning of the word eugenics.
Yeah.
I mean, Britt, how many episodes on the eugenics topic have we done?
Too many. That's it's basically unnecessary.
Yeah, just send them this playlist. Well, I mean, if they're reasonable. If they're not, then what are you gonna do, right? But yeah, but that's the cool thing about Constantine, is like, I always struck him where he doesn't let himself be happy because he doesn't think he's deserved it throughout all of the BS that he has done.
Well, yeah, I mean, why? Well, that is pretty much being self-aware. I have respect for that.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, that's one of the things that like you get wrong if you don't necessarily know a lot about Constantine, because it's like, because he comes off as an a-hole that like pushes people away, and then you realize, oh, I see, that actually works. And that's like the emotional realism and like a history that's in there, which I really like. I really enjoy that. And it's fun to see them kind of like, they do always have pretty decent banter. Like even in Justice League Dark, they had like really fun banter, especially in the Rebirth one, because when Diana dies at the end of Death Metal, Zatanna has to step up and lead the Justice League Dark, and she doesn't know if she can do it, so Constantine is her support.
Oh, well, that's neat.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, what's up, the Iron Man? Dope. But so then we get to final comparison insight, and then we'll get to the history of these two characters, like the romantic history.
Okay, so basically, SuperWonder is held back by editorial. It's the Trinity thing, trying to say that they are part of the Trinity. However, they do have the world's finest with Superman and Batman. So yeah, that not an excuse. And also, being that they are of different franchises, main characters of franchises, it is difficult to have them together because DC already has a difficulty with communication and everything and planning. So yeah, it would be difficult to, I guess keep their relationship as it should be. But yeah, that's a whole new thing. But yeah, they do have the potential, but you just need someone who has the creative um investment. With Constantine and Zatanna, DC pretty much let their relationship be what it is, whether it is to be a sappy relationship or it is to be messy.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like the funny thing is, again, it's like it's like you brought up an excellent point. All it depends on is the bet is a good creator, and then you'll actually have like there are plenty of creators that do not do the Claremont book. I'm looking forward to seeing you try and positively review that book. That's gonna be really fun.
No,
No, yes, that's what you were assigned by Robert and I, so you're doing it. Yeah,
no,
so come prepared come the April Fool's stream, which is actually coming up this Wednesday, I believe.
no,
Let's see. Yes,
no.
yes, yes, yes. Sorry, honey, you're doing it. Anyway, so then uh let's move to the history of these two because they have a very complicated history.
Okay, so as I said earlier, the relationship does pretty much start actually in the 80s and 90s. They don't have much of just that long pre-crisis history, which is another thing because Clark and Diana's relationship starts in pre-crisis, as friends have that tease. But yeah, a lot of these quote unquote traditional relationships started much later. Um, and it still did not have that balance whatsoever. It also they have a lot of retconning to make them into a romantic pairing, and it does involve at one point manipulation and memory eraser. Uh, Again, Constantine with his emotional upheavals, and Zatanna basically trying to fix him.
Yeah, exactly. I can fix them. I can fix them, which is great. And so then we get to. So tell me about the Newcastle incident.
I have no idea. So this, I'm guessing it was just like, again, a bunch of retcons at some point. Um, and it's really like Constantine's story. Yeah, I really didn't read it or
So,
anything.
so
So,
according to this, what says the Newcastle incident was a disastrous exorcism where John Constantine, attempting to save a young girl named Astra Luge from a hellhound, summoned a demon Nurgle, who killed Astra and dragged her soul to hell, causing Constantine to suffer a mental breakdown and be confined to the Ravenscar psychiatric facility for 2 years. Oh boy.
yeah, as I said, there's a lot of mental upheavals.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Exactly. That's an understatement. Which that's cool. And Zatanna, depending on the continuity, she played like a part in it. But obviously, with comics, they keep changing the continuity. So who knows if someone's involved or someone's not involved? Who
Right.
knows?
But again, her her role is to be that emotional crutch or support, for Constantine, but she just well, she is playing just that love interest role.
Yeah, exactly. But which is kind of funny because she's one of those characters that can play the love interest, but could also just be on her own. In other words, that's the interesting part about Zatanna as a character is like it's not required that she be a love interest.
Right.
But anyway, so then we get to the major eras and interpretations of the couple. So we have the Hellblazer, which was the original like iteration of him back when he was just a Vertigo character. Because remember, what people forget, the Vertigo characters were not part of DC, and I mean like Swamp Thing, Constantine and such until the New 52, because when Barry Allen went back in time and like saved his mom and then went back and undid it, this led to Jim Lee's Wildstorm characters and Vertigo coming into the DC continuity. That's where we have Constantine, all these magical characters in the DC universe. Then what people forget is the other thing that the New 52 gave was the Justice League Dark, a Justice League team just intended to fight magic, which, here's the thing, you would think that it wouldn't have taken them this long to do this because of how many magical threats they face.
Yeah, but DC is a little slow.
Yeah, exactly. So then, and this was like, and so then Rebirth comes along. Now, again, Britt and I have gone on for hours about how, honestly, crap Rebirth was for Wonder Woman and stuff. However, as it relates to the Justice League Dark book, it is superb. Here's why. Number one, Steve Trevor does not show up once in the book, so already has that advantage. Number two, it's really a Wonder Woman book, but she leads her own Justice League, which is, again, fight magic. Number three, it expands Wonder Woman's lore, particularly her history with Hecate. What's kind of funny, Britt, is that when Diana finally reveals to the other Leaguers that she created the Justice League Dark, Flash is like, so we're just making Justice League ones? Can I have one of all the speedsters?
Funny.
Yeah, but with this, it's like, so at first, they actually have to fight Diana herself because she is like witch marked by Hecate, which was great. And then it's like, and then you have Cersei who teams up with them and then becomes the antagonist of the book. This also gives like a lot of like development to Detective Chimp, creates a very interesting Wonder Woman villain in the Upside Down Man. And but it's like, it always astounds me that this run does not get more like talked about, even though, I mean, it fills an entire omnibus worth of material here.
I mean, I guess it's more like a niche,
True.
you know, of yeah. I'm okay with Diana being on the team or having her own team. I'm just not sure of Justice League Dark because Diana is not a dark character. She's a magical character in a divine way, but not in Zatanna's way. And
Have you read the run?
A little bit, but let me finish.
Okay. Yeah.
But having her with a witch mark and being cursed and everything like that, that whole retcon, that is not Diana. She is a blessed character. So having her cursed goes against who she is. So even if her characterization is good, it's still the fact that you had to change Diana to fit this sort of narrative. But she is not a dark, witchy character. She already has Cersei as a villain, and that is to oppose what Diana stands for, you know, and why she clashes so much with Cersei.
I'll give you that. I'll give you that. But regardless, it's I mean, I would prefer if she like had like back in the day, they were like making Justice Leagues for any reason. Like Diana legit led an all-female Justice League called the Justice League Amazons.
I mean, they're just trying to make something up.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. That was in the 90s where there was like a ton of Justice League members. So in conclusion, there's a lot of like interesting like directions that you can take Zatanna as a character with Constantine. And again, I love that she is getting like a lot of like promotion and a lot of love finally, because Zatanna is one of those characters where I really like wish would get more attention, or like I feel like deserves it, because she is like a very cool character. The corner with magic is really fun. Her dynamic with Constantine is fun, and again, it really shows again that when you have like creatives like Paul Dini at first, and then you have like Jamal Campbell that actually have this fantastic understanding of the character and the way to like represent her. I don't want to hear anyone say that like it's impossible to get comic book readers to care about original characters, because that's objectively not true at this point.
It's all about creative investment.
Yeah, because I'm like, okay, wait a minute, because it's like, but it's like, again, Britt, it's like too many creatives act like, well, it's impossible to get the fans to care about all of these newer about these lesser known characters. And I'm like, no, it's not. You just, I feel like what that is, that's just an admission of being creatively lazy.
Exactly. If they gaslight the fans into not caring, then it means there's no expectation for them to care.
Yeah, exactly. But and it's like, how much you want to bet again you'll have like Tom King when he leaves the book, most likely at issue 40. And I'm now 90% sure from what Britt and I heard. But when it comes to like, he'll say, oh, I tried to introduce like new characters. I tried to give Wonder Woman a daughter. I tried to give her new villains, but the fans won't ever be satisfied. And I'm like, or maybe you just suck at creating characters. Maybe.
I mean, his run isn't about Diana. So that was like number one red flag of why the fans do not care.
Well, yeah, exactly. It's like, why would it's like no one cares about Steve Trevor? Yes, when you try and make him the dominant character, why would the fan base care when they're reading a Wonder Woman book? But anyway, it's like when you deal with like Zatanna, someone comes in, and here's the other reason why Zatanna did so well, Britt, because it is a story that feels like a Zatanna story. Whereas like with King on Wonder Woman, or like it's not just King, it's a lot of other creatives. They tend to force the character into the story as opposed to forcing the story around the character, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense because the story is supposed to benefit the character, not the character benefit a story or other, character or self-insertion for or even the comfort of the writer. If you need to change the character to comfort yourself, then that is not the character for you.
Exactly. And it's like, and I understand, it's like to a degree, it's like when Britt and I are writing stuff for Shelterverse, Odyssey, what have you, I'll suggest ideas that Britt will ask me one question: how does this benefit Diana? And I'll be like, because there are plenty of times where you have ideas in your head that sound good, but then you're like, oh yeah, this other way of doing it is much better, or like communicates the idea a little better, or fits Diana better, or Clark, or what have you. So it's like you have to go through that journey. It's like, here's the problem: a lot of creators nowadays feel entitled to tell the story they want to tell, and will force any character to do it because they're artists, and they're like, for my artistic integrity, I have to be able to tell the story I want to tell. And I'm like, okay, then go do that with independent comic book characters, and stop trying to drag the characters that people have an attachment to your level, because they're not on your level. You are infinitely below their level.
Exactly.
But so then we get to, so Britt, I understand that you have a little bit of a story for us.
Okay, as always, we have to have a crossover. No, this is not we do not have to have a portal opening, but
Oh yeah, it's in DC, so like, yeah,
right.
okay.
So we're good on that aspect. So this is called The Divine and the Damned. It's basically a supernatural crossover that explores mostly their emotional state and emotional and mental states. So of course it features Superman, Wonder Woman, Constantine, Zatanna, and versus Cersei.
Okay, then Act
Um,
1, the world begins to rot.
okay, so We basically have, it. So this was, I would say, an inspiration from the Justice League Dark. If it were to be more, again, not so much as a curse of Diana, but her blessing.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, a series of unnatural events starting to ripple across the globe. Entire cities starts. Well, basically, people start their nightmares become reality. And people begin to transform into mythical beasts, of course, as Cersei, she loves to turn men into beasts. And ancient symbols tied to forgotten gods, appear in the sky. So it is feeling like there is the end of the world. And who is at the center of it is Wonder Woman. She has the divine connection of the earth and the sky. Meanwhile, Superman, he starts experiencing um, his powers are depleting, but it's not just that, like, say, Superman Truth, or yeah, that where he loses his power, it actually starts to hurt him. And um, and so in back in London, you have Constantine where he's trying to figure out what's going on, and he realizes that this isn't just some random run of the mill sort of, okay, we can do a spell or something, or and that's it, that's all. This is something that is much stronger and a little bit more challenging for them to take on. So he has to call upon Zatanna. And with their relationship, it's very strained at this, particular time. So he's debating whether to get her involved or not.
Dope. All right. And then we get to Act Two, the Uneasy Alliance, right?
So Constantine and Zatanna, they have their friction, while Clark and Diana are just trying to figure out what's going on. So either Clark's powers can come back, or, you know, with Diana's connection, what is her connection, and you know how to get everyone out this nightmare. Um, so Superman, he has a distrust for Constantine's methods, because Constantine is, as we said earlier, self-destructing. He does not care as long as the job is done. You know, that's it. However many he saves, that however many is saved. He did his job.
When he
Um,
finds Constantine, he's like in a bar. He's in the Oblivion bar just drinking.
Diana, she is, her mind is on this mission, because she's seeing the terror in everyone, and it is not good for her. But she knows that this is Cersei's doing, especially with the beast, of course. So, so she wants to stop the pettiness with Constantine and Superman, and just, let's get this done. And Zatanna, they do have that sort of respect for each other, and that understanding that basically they are the more mature of the group.
Mm-hmm.
But she also knows about the history between Zatanna and Constantine, and how this will be a challenging thing, but they have to do, basically put your personal stuff aside and let us do what we have to do to save the world. So Cersei's plan is more terrifying than, world conquering. She's basically trying to open the boundary between the world of gods, the world of magic, and have this subconscious fear in humanity. Basically scare everyone into following her. And in with that result, reality becomes a living mythological nightmare. So yeah, everyone is living their fears, and Cersei basically, if you want that to stop, you have to follow her.
Exactly. So then, Act 3.
So each hero is forced into a personalized supernatural trial, craft, crafted from their deepest fears. So Superman's, he is trapped in a world where his powers are gone. He can't save anyone. Um, Humanity fears and rejects him. He hears people calling out for him for help, and he can't help them. He is forced to confront that, he can't save everyone, that one day maybe his powers will, um, he won't have the powers, but he has to figure out a way that just because you don't have the powers doesn't mean you're useless. Um, and he has to accept his heritage as a Kryptonian. That whether the world, even if the world rejects him, he is supposed to be proud of who he is. Diana's trial is basically the Amazons condemning her because, of course, Diana, she has, sometimes she has to choose between her work in man's world and, trying to be the representative for the Amazons and trying to balance that all out.
So it's kind of
Um,
like that prison she was in the new 52 Justice League of America.
uh, well, yeah, that, or it could be, um, I was thinking more of the Deathstroke annual where she did have that nightmare,
Okay,
and
that works.
the London was on fire, and I think she was having a fear of being the goddess of war,
Okay, that works.
and
That works.
also disappointing Hippolyta.
Hmm?
Um, so yeah, so her whole, thing and what she has to face is that, has she truly protected women and children? And basically, has she done all she can? Which is no, but is it more so of what has she done so far to help? And has that been enough? Constantine, he is basically reliving the Newcastle incident. Basically everything that he's ever done. It's has it the consequences that whether even if he does save someone, it still ends up backfiring.
There's always a catch, in other words.
Right. So this time it's like Zatanna. Even though trying to save the world, it is Zatanna that might be that sacrifice. Sacrifice.
Ooh.
Zatanna, she's trapped in the reality where she becomes like Constantine.
Oh,
That where she does not care for anything. She's becoming manipulative. She's, losing herself. She becomes nonchalant. You know, again, even if you do save someone or save the world, what what are the consequences afterwards? So she's like loving him. Does that mean sh- the consequence is losing herself?
hmm, that works. So then you get to Act 4.
So with that, so Cersei's magic feeds off of the emotional fractures, the spears, the broken hearts, and everything like that. And she's becoming even more powerful. Clark and Diana, they are struggling with that control and vulnerability, being symbols or, being um, human, quote unquote, but in trying to meet those expectations as being Superman and Wonder Woman, but also Clark and Diana. The reporter, the ambassador, this just every role that they've taken, how can they achieve being the success that they should be? With Constantine and Zatanna, it's basically their relationship is very damaged, but they basically have to accept it and, fight through it you know, or let it go.
Dope. Love it. So then the final confrontation, the goddess of ruin.
So they confront Cersei, and so everything is kind of like bending and, you know, um, stuff is really getting to them. This is very much that mental, um, I would say that mental breaking point, so everyone is on the edge. And the magic Cersei is she's feeding off of it. No matter what you do, you have to believe that everything will be okay. If you're lying to yourself, you're not being helpful. So the key to the victory is Superman must accept that it's okay to be vulnerable. And yeah, that is where from the Superman and Wonder Woman annual to where he does lose his powers and he felt useless. Well, no, he's not useless. That's why Diana trains him. That's why he is a reporter. He's like again a son of a scientist, a son of a farmer, very resourceful. Um, Diana, she understands that her role, you know, she can do all that she can and it will be enough. But as she continues to embrace her compassion over that being a perfectionist, um, feeling like she has to have everything in order, you know. And then Constantine, he relinquishes his control. He understands that, being the nonchalant jerk or whatever is not helpful. So he has to this time be selfless and be more cautious to his next step. Then Zatanna, she understands that loving is going to take the risk, but she will love him anyway. It is something that she is is basically saying that love is complicated, and if you want it enough, you will deal with it.
I like that. So then we get to the emotional fallout.
So with that, Clark and Diana are very much changed in a sense, and they've gone through this mental battle and they've accepted um, what they need to do, how they need to handle certain things. Well, they all have. Constantine, he also realized that he has to be more truthful, that he has to be more precautious in what he does, and he has to actually care. Zatanna, she knows that, loving Constantine is terrible for her. And it is a risk, but she would take that risk for him, um, just to see if it is a change. But the thing is, she's not trying to fix him. It's more so accepting the flaws.
Yeah, exactly. And that's really what love is that you accept the flaws in your partner.
Right.
So then we get to one final note.
So the the main point is that it's not Cersei is more like a plot device for the whole magic scenario and all of destruction. But again, it really is a mental and emotional and intellectual, you know, um, character study for all of them to show that Clark and Diana are not these uh, they aren't gods as some fans want them to be. They are very quote unquote human. They feel they have these doubts and these expectations that's put on them, it does create this pressure that neither of them understand, neither of them want. And going through this, they do have each other um to help each other through it, but they aren't codependent. There's a difference between having that and vulnerability, having someone by your side as an equal, we can go through this, and then the codependency where this person is just really leaning on you for that emotional support, but you're not getting it back. So you see Clark and Diana with that balance of helping each other through without either one, you know, just losing themselves within each other. And the same thing with Zatanna and Constantine. Their relationship is still very messy, very, uh, very dysfunctional, but they learn how to accept it in a way that can have a little bit of peace within it.
I like that. That works. So 10 out of 10 story as usual, Britt. 10 out of
Thank
10
you.
story. All right, John Jones. Hey, what's up, Martian Manhunter? He says, I wish Magic in DC was more of a hard system rather than a random BS Go kind of magic. Well, here's the thing about that as well. The purpose of the Justice League Dark run from Rebirth, and I know this because it's included in the omnibus, is it was James Tinney and Ram V wanted to explain exactly how magic works in DC. Like their whole question is, okay, what the question of the run is, what is magic? And the answer they come to is the magic is essentially like it is the ability of making the imagination like real, if you will. And they came up with this entire system. There's the entire thing in the back of the omnibus that basically explains. It's basically an encyclopedia magic for DC. So it's like if you want hard and fast rules, read the Justice League Rebirth, Dark Rebirth run by Ram V and Tinney. I almost said regular Justice League Rebirth, in which case, do not read that. Bathe your eyes with acid. Oh, that's more of the Greg Rucka Wonder Woman book, though. But
Right.
unless, of course, you're talking about the like legacy arc where it's the kids of the Justice League come back in time, in which case stab your eyes and then clean them. So, Britt, tell me about Green Lantern 22.
Okay, so we're still doing basically the ensemble of the Green Lanterns. You have multiple storylines for Hal and confronting Hector Hammond, and you also have Kyle Rayner, which I now see because of spoilers of the what was it, 600 issue from I think last week or so. So yeah, so you're basically building up to that. You have deep cut cameos. You have to make the world of the Green Lanterns feel big. You actually are getting that with the story, and you're also getting it visually as well. You are getting a lot of. I would say this is better, knowing that Hal is the veteran, I would say, but you have I wouldn't call them legacy lanterns, but and not so much of the younger, but maybe I would say the younger lanterns of Kyle, Jessica, and they even if they are Green Lanterns, they still have their own individuality and different paths. They all have this uniqueness to them that is explored here, and the art, as always, is amazing. I'm really loving how glowy you know, the art look, because of course Green Lanterns or the Lantern, you know, the whole Lantern landscape period is about light and everything is so glowy. So I love that.
Unless you're in the Lantern show.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's true. Um, it does. There's a lot of ideas being juggled here. You know, it's a lot of setting up still, things like that. It does kind of fall just a little bit, falter just a little bit, but it picks up. So it's a back and forth thing a little bit. I gave it an 8 out of 10 because the art and it still is an entertaining story.
Yeah, so fun fact. So this issue featured the return of Zariel from Grant Morrison's JLA. Do you know why how Zariel came to be a character?
No.
So for one of the arcs of their Justice League one, Grant wanted to use Hawkman, but DC would not let him use Hawkman. So he literally goes, "Okay, I'll just make an angel." And then obviously there was an arc where like the League has to fight angels and stuff. So there was some fun stuff there. But overall, it's like, yeah, this was one of those issues where I'm like, oh wow. And it's like the fact that like Adams brings in so many like really obscure characters, just like, and like blows my mind. And how you, because again, the thing about it, when a writer brings in like cameo characters, there's the danger of bringing in a ton of characters that aren't related to the like character that you're supposed to be writing. Now, that being said, with this, what you're doing here is Adams doesn't bring in a character unless they're appropriate to the story that's being told here. And you notice the difference between this and say Tom King's Wonder Woman with Bobo and all those other characters is that Hal is still the dominating factor of the story. Hal is still advancing the plot, whereas Diana obviously isn't. So that's why I allow it here, but I don't allow it in the Tom King Wonder Woman issue. But anyway, you obviously know I had to bring that up. But yeah, Zermanico's art like always like blows my mind, particularly on Green Lantern, because you are right. Green Lantern is one of those series where the color has to be on point. Otherwise, it's kind of like not colorful, and that's kind of a big no-no for Green Lanterns, as the DCU is learning right now.
Right.
And then we'll see, like, you're starting to see a lot of the plot going down, and the next issue really delves into Hal's history as a character. So I think you're going to really dig that one. So on my side, I did Storm #3, which I liked it. The thing I liked about this issue is that it's still dealing with Storm's mortality. Because again, in this run, she's like dying. Spoiler alert, she doesn't die. But anyway, she goes to Brother Voodoo, who's like kind of like, who's like a necromancer, and basically talks her about like death and stuff. But then Storm also goes and spends time with the X-Men, how much of a family they are, and the way that like the writer really like, again, nails that family dynamic to these characters. The only thing I don't like is, I'm sorry, I don't like Storm being with Wolverine as a couple. I just don't. It just doesn't sit well for me. Britt, as the resident Storm expert, what do you think of Storm and Wolverine?
No.
Thank you. I'm just like, why? And it's like, not everything Claremont did was a good thing. Most of it was good, but not everything. But the other parts, and I really dig all that. And then I like Wernick's art is like really like expressive and very like bright in the appropriate moments. And the coloring on this is like superb, the way this is done. And it's like, again, every single issue I read of this, as opposed to Bomb Queen, the more, well, let me put it this way, it's much easier to grab like screenshots for this, because with Bomb Queen, I used to have to like scour each screenshot just to make sure there wasn't anything that could get me demonetized on YouTube. And I found one once, and if you go back to that episode, you'll notice that's why in that it was a pre-recorded episode. Luckily, there was like a big ass like blurring effect on one of the images. Because I'm like, oh no! But anyway, I love Storm. This is one of my favorite books at Marvel, and I think we're approaching the point where I was when I actually hopped on and had this book on my pull list, and it hasn't left since then, even though it relaunched. But all in all, I give it an 8 out of 10. The art is solid. Again, Storm is another one of those characters where you really want art. And I got to say, I love Storm having ginormous hair. Can I tell you that? That's just It reminds me of George Perez's Wonder Woman.
True.
I wouldn't be surprised if they were inspired. So then let's get Absolute. So then we get Absolute Wonder Woman 18. First off, we get Absolute Aphrodite. And can I say, I love the look of Absolute Aphrodite. I think she looks spectacular, particularly how she's like covered and naked and stuff, and how she's talking to Diana about love. And of course, we get more awesome kid Diana. We get the like fight of Wonder Woman versus like Zatanna. And then we learn more about like Zatanna's motivation. She's not trying to be like an evil. Well, she's morally ambiguous, but she herself is not like doing the will of like Veronica Cale. And again, it's like to echo your point, Britt, about the coloring and stuff. I really dig the way the coloring is done in this. I mean, Jordi Belair earns every bit of her Eisner she got for this series, because it's like, every time I look and see, even the first image, Diana's like glowing red practically. And the way that like each god glows, the way Zatanna's like magic thing glows. Great scene, Britt, where Wonder Woman has Zatanna in a headlock, so Zatanna can't speak. So she sign languages her spells.
Yeah, that was I think she does that in her main book as well.
Yeah, I've never I personally hadn't seen that before. And then we see the new lasso, the Troika, which is essentially the blue lasso. So it's more of like, in main continuity, would be the equivalent of Donna's lasso. And I'm looking forward to seeing what this lasso actually does, because we all know the green one transforms Diana into different creatures, and the red one is probably, I think it's, what was the red lasso, Britt?
Wasn't it a pain or something?
Something like that. But I'm looking forward to seeing what the Troika lasso does, and I'm betting it's going to be really hardcore and stuff. But so what did you think of this issue, Britt?
It was fine. I guess the fight with Diana and Zatanna was what it was. Obviously Zatanna wasn't going to be evil. She being I guess being manipulated or possessed or whatever by Cale. Cale is still not a villain that I care for. She is to be like gender bent Lex, I guess, but she still needs a little bit more than being that. Her being cursed by Zatanna is interesting though.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess Zatanna's father being introduced to think that his daughter is dead and stuff. That is going to be an interesting setup, because it could, even though it's her father, I would have liked it if Thompson instead chose Zatanna's mother instead, to connect more with the Amazon. To say that Diana thinks that her Amazon sisters and her mother is dead, or just that longing for her parent, and in a sense that could connect Diana and Zatanna even more of being daughters of, the mothers and stuff like that.
However, it's like with the significant relationship of Zatanna, most of the time it's like Zatara. So I'm like, I understand why Kelly went in this direction.
Yeah, but being that Absolute is supposed to be kind of different than main world, I would think that, you would do different for the mother.
Okay.
Um, Other than that, it was fine. It was a fine setup for the next issue. Um, yeah, I don't really see Diana and Zatanna yet as friends or, things like that, but that's whatever. Barbara, I feel like she's trying to set her up to be Cheetah or something like that, or feel like Diana betrayed her. But it's kind of like Thompson wants that setup, but she doesn't know how to do so in a sense that's so different than mainline. So with that little she left me part, in there, it was kind of like, no, she told you to go. So she didn't really leave you if she thought you were gone, you know.
The thing is with this, I'm fine. And see, here's the other thing. It's like, I know we get this whole thing about how, and you and I moderately disagree with this of the absolute Wonder Woman kind of going in the direction of mainline, like Barbara becoming Cheetah and stuff. But I'm fine with that because here's why. The more that Kelly Thompson makes these characters villains and very much villains, the harder it is for reasonable people to see them as shipping material. So I'm like, yep, do whatever you have to do, even though there are stupid people that will still see them as like, oh, it's a couple thing. It's like there are people there's still that one Wonder Woman fan that you and I both know who it is. We're posting like the most battered fan art of Zatanna and Wonder Woman from this, and I'm like, can we get some fan art that doesn't make Wonder Woman look like she got her ass kicked?
Oh yeah, the blood or I really don't agree with the abuse of fan art, Like you don't have to have Diana bloody or being choked or anything like that. Like that's just no.
Well, exactly, and I'll explain off record off stream the reason why. But it's because of like a lot of fans. For some reason, it's like when I did the Wonder Woman Wednesday video about Cheetah, they said it's like they wanted their like toxic Yuri relationship, and I go, can we not have a toxic anything?
Right.
Can we? Because I think that Diana doesn't need a toxic relationship. She already has a toxic relationship with DC. I'm just saying. But all in all, I personally give this issue a 9 out of 10. I know Britt's probably going to be a lot lower. So hit me, Britt.
A 7.5 or 8.
That's higher than I thought it was going to be. All right. But it's... Again, it's like as long as like we get one book where Diana is acting like herself, and like even like when she frees the other like villains from Veronica Cale. Again, this is what I love, because remember the point I always made about the Valhalla arc and why that's awesome. Because again, Diana goes from warrior to, like, for lack of a better term, mother, in the sense that she goes into more of like a diplomat and kind of a helping person attitude immediately in that issue, like almost immediately. And I always felt that was like, and that balance that that a writer that knows Wonder Woman knows how to execute is firmly present in this, and that's why I gave the issue such a high ranking.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so that's the of our slideshow. But we'll do a little Q&A for you guys, and you guys can ask us any questions you want about Superman, Wonder Woman, and whatever you got going on. But yeah, but in terms of like a lot of stuff, but and then Britt and I were briefly talking about this before we came on. It's like, and when Stephanie was on the podcast, she did say that, like, hey, if you guys should check out the upcoming Celestials and stuff, because there could be some stuff that like you guys are going to be very interested in, and stuff that's going to piss people off. I mean, she said it publicly on the show, so I'm not revealing anything. But that got Britt and I thinking on what could that be. And the thing is, it's like my thinking either way is that he is ending at 40, because what they could do, I'm thinking about it, Britt, if he's going to leave at 50, like King kind of want, because there is like some people saying he wants to leave at 50, which could be that. But the reason why I'm not that convinced about it yet is because when you look at the way it is, because it's like if Stephanie says it's like the stuff that there's something in this list that we're gonna like, and the liking would be him getting announced off Wonder Woman. Why would they announce it now if he's going to be out at 5-0? It could be that they're like, hey, the final chapter in Tom King's Wonder Woman story happens now, and then you can just move on with that.
I don't know. I mean, it could be, I don't know. I mean, he's trying to go as long as he can, so it's whatever.
Well, here's the other thing, Britt. I would believe he would be going to 50 if he actually cared about Wonder Woman. Let's be real.
Well, it's not that he cares for her to keep going. It's basically trying to do the whole redemption thing for his Batman run. You know, he wants to. It's really him redoing that, you know, and feels like it's part of the Trinity. He wants to, you know, complete that and all. And he's he's trying to challenge Perez. Perez, I think, did 62 issues. So yeah, he wants to surpass Perez.
Which he won't. I put it this way. I still say 40, but like even if he gets him to 50, he'll always be below Perez. By the way, so Cameron says, I like to ask Britt, do you ever think that writers have Zatanna be Constantine's mom, like in Wonder Bat? In other words, like the whole like nursemaid thing?
Oh, that's in every relationship. That's not SuperWonder. You have, as I said, you have the, you know, the main character as the male, and the female character is reduced to the girlfriend, the love interest. In that's it. And in that sense, you know, the crutch, you know, or and have that codependency. So yes, they definitely do the whole therapist, nurse, mother, den mother type relationship or dynamic with Zatanna, or it could be Dinah. We saw, I think it was the Rebirth run for Green Arrow, and Ollie was going through something, but Dinah was there to comfort him in that way of he hurt her, but she is to comfort him, you know, and then they thought that, oh, we're gonna have them, you know, hop in bed together, and that's it, that's all. But to have that sort of mature relationship where, again, it's equality, it's actually dealing with, you know, the emotional problems together in a very adult manner. No, DC is ran by, you know, a lot of men who want to ensure this sort of power fantasy. And within that, that means that the female character is, again, that therapist, that nurse, the den mother for the male character.
Yeah, exactly. And then Cameron says if DC knows what's good for them, he better not go to 50. Yeah, I really don't, because it's like, also from what Britt and I have heard from like a lot from like our sources and a lot of different people, there are conversations going on right now about the run. So I'm like, if there's conversations going on about the run and he's doing a storyline that he could easily end the run in, I really like, the least that they could do, what they could do, which I still don't anticipate them doing, but I'm just saying this is an option, is he does the raw, is like he ends at 40 and they give him a Bat Cat style pity series. Other than that, from what like this, from where things stand now, I highly doubt he will get to issue 50. I really think he's done at 40.
Probably, maybe.
Yeah, but where do you stand, Britt? Where do you think on like what if you had to like if you had to put to like go with your gut? What's the number you think he leaves at?
45 or 50.
So you're on the 45 or 50 mark.
Only because, if he said that Wonder War is already 8 issues, and
Yeah, which ends at
you
39.
so you have 40, but is he really gonna want to wrap up, just in one issue? No. So he's going to try to do a little bit of something more, which is the aftermath of the Wonder War, which is probably to, in a sense, set up this, new status quo of what, how, the future and the present has changed. And honestly, I mean, the Wonder Woman book is so irrelevant, and honestly, Diana's character is so irrelevant that it's not going to do anything to the main verse in the first place. But he still wants to make it seem so. So yeah, he's not going to wrap up in just one issue, the 40th issue.
Well,
So it has
again,
to be he's going to try to go a little bit further. Again, I would say 45 to 50.
well, here counterpoint. What if DC says no? You are because my thing is that DC already told him the run is ending, so you need to find a way to wrap this up. That's where the Wonder War came from. Like, no, I can end the story here and then just move on. You can do whatever you want. Because again, I don't think he really cares about. I think all that Perez stuff was just him trying to get people on his side. I really don't think he cares.
True.
So that's why I'm more on the 40 side, but we'll see. But I mean, if you guys have any other questions, you guys can drop them in here. But it's like, yeah, it's like, and now in terms of where things stand after the run, I really feel like they'll try and make Trinity work. Like, again, it'd be interesting to see what they do. Like, do they retcon her straight out, even though I would like for her to be retcon straight out, or do they give her to another writer or have another writer take over and then see if that new writer can actually make people like the character? Because even when I was on my friend on Nerdette's newsstand a while ago, even she backed up that like, yeah, it's like she hasn't seen, and I can back this up, like many people like on social media or even in the comic book store really praising that book. The point that they keep trying to promote the trade paperback says a lot. That tells me they're desperate, because if the trade doesn't sell, that really shows that the series is not that series or concepts of the series is a failure.
Well, yes, it is.
And let's be honest, Britt, the only reason why some people defend it or hopped on is because it's technically a Super Sons book.
Yes.
That is why. Because if you notice, the minute the Super Sons book went away, the Super Sons portion of the book went away, what happened to the sales?
Right, the sales dropped.
Dropped. That is a dramatic understatement, Britt. The sales freaking cratered. That's what they did. So that's like my big contention there. It's like you already have the main point of the run happening as a fail, and it's like DC knows that the fan base isn't responding to the run, and while the sales maybe are better than what DC traditionally wanted, I think that the sales are pretty much in terms of that are like not where DC thought that like they should be. In other words, DC was like, okay, they're better than Clune and Conrad, even though Britt and I pointed out why that's technically false. But it's like they expected the sales to climb a certain point, and if they're not going to climb, and chances are they haven't in 3 years, if they think they've gone down, why are they going to give them another year, another 6 months to a year?
Yeah. I guess. I mean, I don't know.
And to be clear, Britt, you could be right. I want to be very clear about it. You could be very right. I'm just not convinced yet.
Yeah, I'm just going by a little logical thing because, you know, again, even though he is busy with Hollywood stuff, um, he still has clout, and they still would let him do whatever he wants, you know.
I've heard that's
So
not necessarily true though, because he has pitched books and they have rejected them.
true, yeah, they have, but it's still the fact that the purpose of his run was to be like because of Supergirl getting a movie, and the way this side of editorial of
Mhm.
the Wonder Woman editorial, it just seems like even with the backlash to go this far of the Wonder War and everything like that to they've taken people off of books for lesser time. So for this to be dragged out even this far, it says that he has some type of leverage somewhere. So even if they are giving him time to finish whatever, this story to wrap up, I mean, maybe it's because they don't know of a writer yet to take over. So they letting him continue on or something like that. The conversations, whatever they're having, is not just a quick, you know, you're off the book. They have to set up someone else to take over. They have to, um, well, yeah, have someone take over the book or ready to take over the book and everything like that. So it's a very complicated sort of thing to pinpoint. And yeah, it's just
True.
waiting for the solicitors to see. So far, we have been pretty much right about certain things. So yeah, it could be, like I said, it could be 40 where you wrap up in the big issue of 40 and that's it, that's all. And then you have a Batman and Catwoman moment where the very next issue, people are trying to either have Steve gone again or Trinity gone again. Um, but yeah, it still is a whole thing because remember with this Days of Future Past type story, he wants the older Trinity and then you have the baby in present time. And even still with Diana having, you know, the Chucky baby, she no one else really refers to her at all. So it's kind of like how does he in a sense what does he do with that? So I'm saying that you can't do that in a single issue. It has to be a little bit more. So that's why I said 45.
Well, and here's my point on that. So who knows how long these conversations have been going on? Because my theory is that they made the decision to end it after, like during Mouse Man, and it was most likely, at least in my opinion, that they approached it like King said, "Hey, I'm building up toward this issue, toward the Wonder War. Let me at least end the run there because that way I can at least complete the overall story that the run is time." The other thing, Britt, is like the while they haven't while King hasn't like said that yet that this is the end. He's used certain language that is very suspicious. Like he brings up like, oh, everything I've been doing with Wonder Woman has been leading to this storyline. And typically you don't really start using that language until like this is the culmination of your entire run.
True, true.
And now again, you could be right, I could be wrong. It's just again, it's like there's enough in there where I'm still convinced it's for you because what I think is going to happen is again he because they could do like an extra let's say an 80-page issue for his issue for his thing. In other words, do 2 issues in one, do that for 40, and then have like let's say Stephanie come on for like 10 issues and like do a quick story about like the Amazons or whatever she wants to do. Like even have 10 issues where it's Nubia taking the lead instead of Diana, so Diana can like recover. And then the next writer, you start them on in 51, but then you restart with a number one to like get that like to get that little sales boost, and then whoever's the main Wonder Woman writer, yeah, that works. Because again, it's like they would have had for the most part, particularly if the timetable matches up, they would have had enough time to actually find a new Wonder Woman writer.
Yeah.
And on that could have also been the reasoning for those two issues being like Stephanie issues, so he can like figure out and rewrite, how do I end this? How do I make this story like wrap up properly?
There's no way to wrap this up.
There's no way. Yeah, exactly. But I feel like in his ego mind, he's probably like, how do I wrap this up properly? How do I wrap this story up? So it's like, I feel like that because there's enough that he could have planned this out. So like everything that like he's leading to is the end. But it's like the most I think it's gonna do is bring Steve Trevor back. That's it. I highly doubt that they would ever like marry Diana to Steve. I highly doubt that. Like, there's no way they would ever do that.
No, I mean, she has a Greek kid with him, so I don't know.
Yeah, but it's like DC tip, because when you do marriages, that significantly limits the stories that you can tell. And that's coming from Benny from Comic Explained, RAP. That's coming from Robert, who's like the biggest, lowest fan ever. And it's like when you marry off characters, that instantly like significantly minimizes the storytelling that you can have with those characters.
True.
But that's just me. And unless you guys have any concluding questions, we can go ahead and wrap up. So, Britt, do you have any stories you want to tease us with?
Okay, so of course we have Shelter and Odyssey, and the adoption story that I have for Diane. I also have one shots that I have completed and are completely edited, so they will be up soon. I'm also doing a tonight one shot. I'm finishing that up, and that will be sometime this week. Also, if you're on Twitter, you can follow my new page. It is I have to remember my new Twitter at it's B Diva 27, which is BEY Diva 27. Yeah, my other page was hacked. It's a lot of pages going down on Twitter, but I mean, I was able to start over. And I will be posting more Wonder Woman threads, of course, more commentary. So it gave me that sort of fresh start to do that and be a little bit more organized with my commentary. The Super Wonder Instagram has reached 70.7 thousand followers. Yeah, it's having a huge blow up increase. So, for those who think that no one likes Super Wonder, yeah, no, that's not true.
Yeah, the thing is like, hey, you may not like it, but don't say no one likes it.
Right. So yeah, continue to support the pages and follow me on Twitter if you're on Twitter. But yeah, I will continue on with trying to update all stories, short stories, or chapter stories soon.
Hell yeah, and I'm looking forward to that tonight chapter. but yeah, as for me, all right. So Athena will be fulfilling momentarily because I'm all of the required items will be being sent to Critical Blast, where they will be sent out, and then the comic will officially be in the wild. And then tomorrow for Amazon Answers, I'm going to be discussing the girls and doing like deep dive on them. I'm doing a bigger deep dive than Tom King. And then in terms of In terms of Wonder Woman Wednesday, I haven't thought about specifically what I'm going to cover, but again, all like pre-record, all like weekday content that was originally at like 5 p.m. or 4 p.m. will be at 6 p.m. because I start a new job on Monday, so I want to that goes until 5 p.m. at least currently. So I want to be able I can like get home and get everything all set up. So that's that. And yeah, and in terms of, I don't think we'll discuss what our next episode is, but next week for movie night, we're going to be talking about Terminator. What's that? I think it's Terminator 3. Yeah, it's Terminator 3. One of the most Terminator movies. But yeah, if you guys have one more question for me or Britt, you can drop them in the chat. But so let's see. One more question for Britt. I think I have one. What would you say is like the single most, like, if you had to give someone one floppy that defines who Diana is as a character, what would that be?
Like a run or just a single issue?
A single issue.
Um, I would give Immortal Wonder Woman 2 because at that end shows that Diana is how inspirational she is and the start of, believing in yourself and also believing in the world, whatever end has basically a new beginning. It begins again.
So
And
it's in other words a commentary on DC's constant reboots.
well, not so much as that. It's more of like Diana always believes in new starts, and she believes in the world, basically is ever evolving, and how she is this spiritual factor within, DC.
Okay, I'll give you that. I agree on the issue. If I had to pick another one, I would have to say probably the first issue of Perez, because again, everything that modern Wonder Woman is pretty much like spins out from that first issue, because that's where you get the whole she's the reincarnated soul of like a child that was killed in utero, and Hippolyta is the reincarnated soul of a woman that was killed by her husband in anger. That's where you get like the relationship with the gods, the way the different origins go. It's like a lot of that is like a lot of like the foundation upon which other Wonder Woman writers write or crap upon is very much comes from that single issue right there.
Well, see, that's why it was difficult, because honestly, it's multiple issues within Perez run that truly shows who Diana is, and honestly, the whole run, because that should be the template and the foundation of modern Wonder Woman. If you can have Superman and Batman be inspired by Frank Miller or John Byrne for umpteen years, then Wonder Woman should have that same sort of grace. Especially when we know for sure Perez, his run was or has been the golden standard for her. So I'm not understanding why, it's so difficult for DC to have that consistency of, respecting Perez, but his foundation should be the foundation that we have, present time.
Yeah, exactly. And actually that's an interesting thing. Is like, that's why my solution to fixing Wonder Woman again is to just re-Perez her. And I'm not saying, again, do a full reboot, even though in some ways she kind of could use it. What you do is you apply the same storytelling. You essentially reboot how you handle Wonder Woman. You go back to the way you handled her back when Perez was writing Wonder Woman. Because again, as Britt, as I say every week, the Wonder Woman that everyone like, stuff that all the creators think is like iconic, that goes from that 100% stems from Perez. And Perez is the blueprint upon which all the other Wonder Women runs go with. So it's like, why are you trying to undermine that? Well, the answer is ego, but why are you trying to undermine that in order to say, oh, I could do better than George Perez, even though you really can't? And maybe you shouldn't make George Perez's funeral all about you.
Right.
As you can tell, I'm still salty about that. Still salty. But yeah, that's what we're going to call it. Stay work, everyone. Remember, Lois Lane is Lois Lane. She belongs to General Zod, or as Zed so eloquently put it, Satan. Zoe is the Maxibat for life. Oh, and Steve Trevor's a sack of moldy potatoes. See you guys later. Bye-bye.